Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fast Money Football. I'm your host, Albert Vartanian. I'm joined by James Sharman, as always, and this is your better late than never Premier League recap, James. What a weekend it was. And listen, if you watched the show on Friday and you took some of our picks, you made some money. At least I did. 2 of the 3 hit. 1 was a push. Every Friday, we do a segment called Attack and Defend, where I provide 3 picks for the Premier League that I like, and James either attacks or defends it. If he attacks it, he doesn't like it. If he defends it, he's riding it with me. So let's start with the ones that he defended. And James, how about Tottenham? Plus 130 on the line, taking down Aston Villa 4-0. And if you watch that game after the first half, that scoreline was not expected.
It wasn't. Villa were incredible in that first half.
Amazing.
It's one of the best halves of the season, but it's a funny old game, as the great Jimmy Greaves would once say. And, you have to take advantage of your opportunities. And, perhaps with a good center forward, because Danny Ings just isn't what he should be or what he was. Jacob Ramsey could have scored a couple. One in particular would have been a gorgeous goal, but they played fantastically. But then, of course, second half happens and Spurs just wake up. This monster is awakened, and I think we're seeing it under Antonio Conte, Albert. This monster is now awakened. Spurs are legit. They're playing some great football. In that second half, they were just fantastic. Or should I say, the front three were just fantastic. But yeah, I feel bad for Villa. If ever, a 4-0 scoreline isn't a 4-0 scoreline, that's it. But still give Spurs all the credit in the world.
That was a cliche tale of 2 halves. And Steven Gerrard said, he's like, after the match, he's like, I'm proud of that performance. That's been the best performance since I've been here, and they lost 4-0. So that tells you everything. I want to touch on something. So on Twitter, because, whatever happens on Twitter is real life. They were kind of dragging Spurs through the mud after that game because we're like, well, they had to rely on Hugo Lloris. And if it wasn't for Hugo, they wouldn't have won that game. And I'm like, well, that's his job.
Yeah.
That happens from time to time. A goalie has to save a game or win a couple points for a team. And that's what he did. He doesn't do it every single week, but he showed up when he had to.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the shots were 19-11 for Villa, right? So obviously the goalkeeper was important. And I'm with you. I hate these arguments when they say a team's lucky because David De Gea, Alisson, Ederson, Hugo Lloris had great games. Well, yeah, they're part of the team. They're paid by the team. They're recruited by the team. They're part of that squad and that team. So if they play great, it's just the same as having a great striker in my book. So yeah, you're right. He was fantastic. He made some great saves. Absolutely. But he's a Tottenham Hotspur player. And therefore, good for them, that they benefited from it. So, but I'm with you. This whole thing about, they're just fortunate because of the goalkeeper. Well, I don't know. If fortunate, it just doesn't make no sense to me whatsoever.
No, I'm with you. And that's his job. That's the keeper's job, is to keep the ball out of the net. He was fantastic that day. And he tends to have those games time and time again, but he's also prone to mistakes. But Spurs won't care about that. 3 up on Arsenal, and who would have predicted that? I mean, we always talk about how to look at these games coming to the end of the season, top 4, relegation, title race. You look at the run-in and you're like, okay, well, they can pick up points here, lose here. But that's kind of all out the window because in the Premier League, it doesn't matter. How does Brighton, who scored, 1 goal in 7 games, go to the Emirates and pick up a result? It's crazy.
Is it Brighton or is it Arsenal being Arsenal, right? Have they kind of defied us and our expectations in recent weeks? I don't know. Listen, the issue with Brighton has been all year long the lack of a real true goal scorer, right? They play really good football, they create chances, but they haven't scored goals. When they do find, some goal scorers, or they do find that ruthless touch, they get results. They're a really good team. But I look at this Arsenal side, and I thought they were going to be not cemented, but certainly the favourites to finish top 4 before this past week, and now that's changed. Now, injuries are tough. Tierney's out. That's a huge one. Partey, who's been just brilliant in recent weeks, is out right now, which means Granit Xhaka goes to left back, which means, A, there's no force in the midfield. Secondly, Granit Xhaka's not a left back, right? As simple as that. So there's issues which I feel for them, but maybe they should have addressed that last summer or even in the window, right? Lacazette is playing like Lacazette once again, i.e. invisible. So obviously, perhaps we jumped the gun a little bit, I think, on Arsenal. But that's a huge loss. What a weekend for Spurs, though, given all their rivals lost games and lost points for those top 4 spots. So Spurs looking really solid right now.
Yeah, for Arsenal, for their next 6 games, James, Chelsea, United, West Ham, and Spurs, you can make a case that they can probably go to Manchester United, and it's not as difficult a fixture.
Yeah.
Probably would have been a couple of years ago, as Everton can tell us after this past weekend. But yeah, let's talk about another game we didn't agree on. I had to bring it up. I'm sorry, James. But Brentford, I love the Bees. I really do. Plus 180, they beat West Ham 2-0. And I agree with you, though. I do believe that West Ham are a better team. Clearly, they are. They're making a run in the Europa League. But coming off those midweek games really hurts teams. Whoever's in the Europa League, Thursday to Sunday or Thursday to Saturday is very difficult, especially if you're West Ham with a really short squad.
Yeah, and especially as obviously coming off that game and then looking forward to the next one this Thursday, right? A huge match for West Ham, one of the biggest games in their history, right? To get to a semi-final of a European Championship, albeit not the Champions League, it's huge. But yeah, I guess I overthought it. Albert, you're right. West Ham are a better team, but recent form dictates that Brentford are a really solid team right now, and they've changed everything since Christian Eriksen's arrived there. They've rediscovered their mojo. They're a good home team. West Ham's not a good away team, and full value for that one, absolutely. But West Ham did disappoint me. I thought they weren't nearly the team that they've shown in recent weeks, which when we think they're dipping, they kind of come out of it. And I thought that was what's happening with West Ham, but it wasn't the case. But I'm happy for Brentford too. I want to see Brentford survive this year. They're a really interesting story off the field, how they build that team without an academy. They really are, a team based on analytics, which, I'm not always the biggest fan of. I think it gets overblown a little bit. But, yeah, they're a great story. So for them to survive, and I think they will survive now, I think it's fair to say they're going to survive. What a fantastic story. And Thomas Frank, what a brilliant job he's done. Yeah,
Christian Eriksen once again at the heart of everything. 4 wins and 5 for Brentford. 2 wins, obviously, coming once against West Ham, and another against Chelsea. For West Ham, James, 6 points back of Spurs. They have Lyon and then Burnley next. Are they out of the top 4 race?
They're not out just yet. I mean, I think it's a little bit early for that. It's unlikely they'll finish top 4. I think it's been unlikely most of the season. They've been the one outlier that's kind of surprised us. But listen, they're playing Burnley, right? Which, easy 3 points. Or is it really hard? I don't know anymore, because Burnley makes no sense to me whatsoever. I mean, God, they beat Everton, and we think, okay, well, that's that done. Everton's going down, Burnley's staying up, and then Burnley lose to Norwich.
Yeah.
Norwich, Albert, this weekend. I mean, my word, what is happening there? They might be the most inconsistent team. There's a lot of inconsistent teams in this league right now. Burnley might be the one. I just don't know what to expect week in or week out.
Yeah, I love this Premier League because anything can happen on any given day. We would have had Burnley beating Norwich, would have had Manchester United at least making it difficult for Everton. Everton, big win for them, 1-0. But back to the top 4 race, just to look at the odds quickly. They've shifted quite a bit. Tottenham, minus 275, the favorites at the moment. Arsenal, plus 200. United, plus 1,600. We should probably talk about them. West Ham, plus 6,600. So if you think West Ham can make a run, those are pretty good odds. But let's talk about United against Everton. What a horrible performance. And I thought, man, was Cristiano Ronaldo's name even mentioned throughout that game? And I had to go look back at his touch map. 4 touches in the box. He didn't do much.
Well, he upset a kid and smashed a kid's phone after the match. So he did that. So, there's images of his leg, just horrible gash in his leg. So he was involved, obviously. There's proof there. Like, literally, there's blood and sweat. There's proof in the field. There's his DNA on the field. Yeah. Apart from that, I don't think so. I didn't see him. It was a horrible match. It was a horrible performance. And I think we just got to finally just completely agree that United is not a tough out anymore. They've given up. They've quit on the interim manager. They're looking forward to next season, either a new manager or a different club. They're just done. They were pathetic once again. And, it's just, I mean, my God, even David De Gea, who's been really great this year, is the one guy who should be angry because he's been so good. He said, Everton had more desire than us. He said it's a disgrace. So I'm glad that he's speaking out. It's an appalling performance. And the week in and week out, they keep doing it, and they keep complaining and whining about everything under the sun except for their own performances. It's just not good enough. Whoever the new man is, if it's Erik ten Hag, if it's Pochettino, if Fergie returns, I don't know who it is. He's got to clear that room out. There's a lot of dead wood who have to move on.
That's a massive job, and not only because it's Manchester United, because of how much work needs to be done. And I've kind of read in between the lines with Ten Hag, it's kind of gone quiet a little bit over the past recent days. I think he's seeing what's going on over there and has certain people in his ear. I know Edwin van der Sar, I think he might be the president of Ajax or something like that. He's in a huge managerial role over at Ajax, and he might be in his ear telling him too, listen, I don't know if that's a job that you want to take at the moment. Obviously, I think he'd like to keep him at Ajax, but there's a massive gap between Manchester United and 2 top teams in the Premier League, Liverpool and Man City, and that's where we should probably go next. 2-2. We kind of talked about how these games tend to have 2 very good teams cancel each other out. that happened, but it was very entertaining.
Oh, what a match. Yeah, it's funny. I was talking about this last night, and as much as it was a great game, but because I am a Liverpool fan, I admit that, and now and again I put my fan hat on for 90 minutes. The emotional turmoil I went through in that match took away from the enjoyment of it. So perhaps I didn't think it's quite as great as other people did. I saw a first half where Man City were just dominant and Liverpool were not very good in my estimation, giving the ball away a lot. Part of that is because of how great City were. Second half, they found themselves, and it's a really great game and a great finish. Just a great advertisement overall for the Premier League, and just shows how tight these two teams are. They've played twice now, 2-2 and 2-2. They do it again on Saturday in the FA Cup. Could be different looking 11s, of course, by then. But yeah, I mean, what a great match. And in the end, points are shared. I would have probably given City the slight edge. They had the best chances, I think. But in the end, I mean, I think a draw was the fair result. And it means the race is still wide open with 7 games left. It's easy to see any of these teams drop some points. There's some tricky ones. It's also easy to see both these teams go perfect the rest of the season. So it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, it's incredible to see. I saw this stat: top points accumulated in the Premier League since August 2018 out of 432 games. Manchester City 338, Liverpool 337. The next best is Chelsea 268. This just tells you how close these teams have been over the past few years. I want to ask you one more thing. Pep was being awfully friendly with certain Liverpool players, James. Trent Alexander-Arnold and Virgil van Dijk. I saw you tweet something.
Yeah.
Pep, he knows what he's doing.
Oh, go away, Pep. I think I tweeted, keep your mitts off him with Virgil. Like, no. Don't
imagine Virgil on that team. My God.
Oh, yeah. I mean, imagine Virgil with, oh my God, my brain's just.
Ruben Diaz?
Diaz.
Yeah.
Just
who didn't play. And that's not even really being talked about. Their number one center back didn't even play.
Yeah,
they were still able to keep Liverpool at bay, at least for 2 goals anyway.
No, you know what? I think Pep's friendly with most players. He's just a nice guy, I think, isn't he? As intense as he is, and we have fun with him. He's just a nice guy, and every player in the world respects Pep Guardiola, and every player in the world would love to play for him. He makes players better. I'm sure most players want to play with Jurgen Klopp as well. Klopp and Pep get on really well too. That's the one thing about this rivalry, and it's become this great rivalry. One of the greatest, technical rivalries I think we see in the Premier League. It hasn't quite got that needle, that edge, even though there were some terrible challenges. I mean, Thiago should have been sent off a couple of times, I think. But the fact that, in the old days, the United Arsenals, Chelsea's, United, those days, those eras, Everton, Liverpool in the 80s, they hated each other. They hated each other. And there were always, controversial moments, red cards, nastiness. We haven't quite got that from this rivalry just yet. And maybe it's not a bad thing because we're seeing the football play out. But I don't know. To me, for a really true rivalry, there's got to be an element of just hatred in there. And this is lacking that a little bit.
I'm with you. Too many hugs. Too much hugs.
Too many hugs. Yeah, exactly.
Before and after, it's like, come on, guys.
After, okay. But before the game, come on.
I don't want anyone to die, but go out there and try and kill each other. That's what I want to see.
I want to see Roy Keane and Vieira get in a fight in the tunnel before the match.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. That doesn't happen anymore.
No, it doesn't. Probably too many cameras.
For Pep Guardiola, yes, nice guy. And one thing I know he'd want to have in his trophy cabinet with Manchester City is the Champions League trophy. And that returns this week. Today, actually, we have 2 games. Man City and Liverpool both play on Wednesday. Today, we start off with a big one, James. Bayern Munich, minus 450 at home to Villarreal, plus 1,000. I think that's worth a sprinkle. But the first leg, wow, Villarreal winning 1-0. Very unexpected. They could have had more. How do you see the second leg playing out?
Yeah, no love for Villarreal still, eh? What must this team do to get some love, at the bookies? I really don't see Villarreal winning. That being said, I'm buying into this just because, listen, Villarreal were great last week. Bayern were particularly bad. And then going to the Allianz Arena is a different beast entirely, right? They've won 5 or 6 in the Champions League. It's been 5 years since this team scored less than 2 goals at home in the Champions League. I mean, they're just a different beast entirely. I heard Manuel Neuer saying in the pre-match press conference, that result was good for us. Actually, it was a good loss because it woke us up. Not that they were great on the weekend, mind you, in the Bundesliga. They had to rely on a Lewandowski penalty to win against Augsburg. But he said, yeah, we've woken up. We'll be just fine. And I don't see Villarreal getting the double over them. I want to see it. What a great story that would be. But I'm just thinking that, Bayern's still Bayern. They're still a fantastic team. They were woken up last time out. And going home, the fans won't accept anything but a great performance.
I was reading a lot of preview and prediction articles on this game, as I like to get a feel of where everyone's kind of going in terms of what their bet and their pick is. And a lot of people are going with a Bayern huge win, like a 4-0, 5-0, and I just don't see it. I mean, Villarreal, they haven't lost by more than 2 all season. They're a strong team. We saw what they did in the previous round against Juventus. Obviously, Juventus not the team that Bayern Munich is, but still, they went to Italy. They won 3-0. They're probably going to be under it for most of the game here, but I just don't see them getting blown out. And I'm looking at the lines. I'm like, where's the value here? And Villarreal +2. So they'd have to lose by at least 3. It's -120. That's pretty good odds.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they haven't been great in Spain this year, right? So let's not, champion them just too much. They've been recently, of course, they've been quite poor in Spain. He did make 11 changes on the weekend against Bilbao, right? So it's a brand new team. They're fresh. I'm with you. I don't think it will be a blowout. However, I wouldn't be surprised if Bayern do what they do, pull out a 7-0, which they kind of want to do from time to time, right? But no, I think it'll be a Bayern win. I think it'll be enough. I think a 2 or a 3-0 will probably be my guess in this one.
Yeah, they can score 5 goals per game at home in the Champions League. Bayern Munich, that's a deadly, deadly team. To the next game, the one I'm so intrigued about because I just love watching Real Madrid and Karim Benzema. +170 at home to Chelsea, +155. First leg, 3-1 Real Madrid, which was now known for the Benzema hat-trick. How good has he been, though? In La Liga, James, 24 goals, 11 assists. In the Champions League, 11 goals, 1 assist. Currently, to be the top scorer, +250. Not bad odds. He must be the most important player in this game between both teams.
Yeah, I think so. And even Ancelotti, the coach of Real Madrid, said that. He said, yeah, we rely on Benzema, and now I'm okay with that. Just like any great team relies on its great players, he's the guy right now to score their goals, to link their play. He's brilliant. He really is. And I mean, last week we saw it, and the time before against PSG, we saw it as well. The biggest games, he rises, and I expect the same again against Chelsea later today. What a performance. If you're giving out the Ballon d'Or right now, it's going to Benzema, isn't it? I'm pretty certain it's going to Benzema. I don't know who else you could debate. He's just been incredible, both domestically and in European football. So, I don't see Chelsea getting back in this one. I think Real's so savvy and so veteran-laden and love cup football. 3-1 is 3-1. Going to the Bernabeu, where, by the way, Chelsea had never played before, which I found incredible. It's amazing. I think Real should be the favourites, even though Chelsea looked much better on the weekend. And Thomas Tuchel's come out and said, listen, this is a fantastic script. It's almost impossible to overturn a 3-1 league. He's whining about the physical demands on English teams, given they only have 3 subs. He's making all the excuses he can right now to take pressure off his team. Yeah. But it's not going to work, I don't think. Chelsea's good, don't get me wrong. They're not as bad as they were last time out, but I don't see Real capitulating and blowing a 3-1 lead at home.
Yeah, Chelsea, big win at the weekend, as you mentioned, 6-0 over Southampton. What did you make of that result? Is that something that can, I know you like Real here, but could that be something that gives them the confidence that they need to try and overturn this?
Well, hey, listen, Timo Werner, he looked great, didn't he?
Yeah.
Timo Werner, I mean, maybe he's the solution after all. No, of course it can build confidence, but it's also you're playing Southampton, who have this result always in them. They can let in 6, 7, 9 goals and then go unbeaten for 10 games. They're a weird team. But yeah, of course it can build confidence, up front in particular. But I just think, this is all they have to play for at this point, aside from the FA Cup, right? Got the FA Cup semi-finals against Crystal Palace coming up in the weekend. That might be all they're fighting for by the time that game comes around. So obviously it's a massive game. Nothing to lose. Go for it. But I just don't see it being possible.
Yeah, just 5 points up on Spurs actually in the Premier League. So if they don't watch out and be careful, you never know. They could get dragged into that. If they lose this one and they go back to the Premier League, obviously it's going to be difficult for them to, keep their heads up based on what's going on. And against Crystal Palace, that's a tough matchup. They might not get through there based on the way Crystal Palace is playing. So I don't have a bet for this one, James. I think this is a stay away from me. I kind of just want to sit back and enjoy this game and not worry about what's happening with my money.
Are you watching that one?
I'm going to watch that one.
You're going to be focusing on? Yeah?
Yeah.
Really? I think I'm going Bayern. I'm going Bayern. I want to watch that one. I'm really curious about Villarreal. And hey, listen, Alphonso Davies, a little bit of a homegrown, there as well, right? How good he was. He didn't start on the weekend, so he's fresh as well. But I think I'm going to be focusing on Bayern, but it's definitely a 2-screen day, put it that way.
I think so as well, and that's one of the great things about the zone. For the Canadian fans, if you want to, plus 180, Alphonso Davies to score. So that's something to think about. That's it for Fast Money Football. He's been James Sharman, or he is James Sharman. You can follow him at Twitter at James Sharman. You can follow me at The Real Bird V. And please head over to parlay.tv for more parlay content. Thanks, guys.